God. Yeah. If you're here for elementary, you can go to Pear Deck and type in that code, just because we're gonna have you answering a few questions throughout, so that we can make this more interactive. And then put a thumbs up when you're ready, just so we can. Everyone good? I think that's a sign. Okay.
All right, we're gonna get started. My name is Emily,
And I'm Amelia.
and today we're talking about the MTTC.
So first off, we're just gonna do a stress check because this can be a very stressful conversation and we just wanna see how everyone's doing before we get started.
I guess you just can't see it on
General or about the test?
Just in general.
Oh.
Or about the test.
It looks like wildly low stress. I don't know why it's not showing up on there. But that's good.
Good. So your initial thoughts about the MTTC. Do you know anything? Is it a stressful idea to think about? What are your initial thoughts? And you should be able to type a response in.
There we go. It's because I needed to hit show response. Oh, we got it. Fun group, guys. Scares me, stresses me out.
So it looks like a general overview is that this is a very stressful test that we're talking about and that we don't know a lot about it and why we don't talk about it more. So hopefully after today you will be a little bit more comfortable, maybe still scared a little bit, but feeling a little bit more comfortable with what it looks like. So what is the elementary MTTC? It's a 3.5-hour test that will allow you to gain your teaching certification, and it will allow you to teach in Michigan schools. And the nice thing about being certified in Michigan is that the certification in Michigan transfers to a lot of other states. Not every state, but a lot of other states. And so if you become a teacher in Michigan, you will easily be able to go to other states to teach. You just have to go through a couple other loopholes, but it's a lot easier to transfer that rather than to transfer from another state. And it is designed to ensure that each certified teacher has basic skills to teach. So it's your college classes should be preparing you for what is on the test. It should be the foundational skills of what you need to know to be a teacher in the elementary world. So as you go through the process, right before student teaching, you will meet with Professor Hoovie, who will give you a little bit more information about your specific numbered tests. But for everyone in this room, if you are on the elementary ed course, your test number will be 103, which right now that's probably not going to make much sense. And trust me, you will hear a lot about this right before you have to take it. But just to give you a little bit of a heads up. So you will probably have to take 2 tests, and the main one will be an elementary ed course, and then you will take one for your focus area. So whether that's early childhood, special ed, a subject area. I took ESL. So you'll take probably 2 tests, and the specific number again for the elementary education test is 103, and your focus area test will be a different number, but you'll take 2. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that? It can be a little bit confusing, but anything you want to add?
So what the test looks like, it's a computer-based test with 150 multiple choice questions. It's 3.5 hours, and to get it to pass, you have to get at least a 220.
Yeah, and so what computer-based test means, I know when I was going into it, I had no idea. So you'll go into a room and there will be just like computers that basically look like this, and it depends on the testing center. So I went to both the Grand Rapids Testing Center and the Holland Testing Center, and they're very different. So I recommend, like, if one doesn't suit you well, one location doesn't suit you well, and you maybe didn't do well on the first try, like trying the other testing center can be really beneficial because they are very different environments. And so you'll sit down at a table. Sometimes they'll offer you like noise canceling headphones. Sometimes they didn't. Like Holland didn't offer that, but the Grand Rapids one did. So it's just those basic little things that you don't necessarily think about when you're going into it. And you'll sit down, and it's just like multiple choice on a computer like this. And it's like very, very simple on the screen. And it's 3.5 hours. And the passing score, I'm not entirely sure what that necessarily means, but when you take the test, right away after you finish it, it will tell you whether you passed it or you didn't pass. And then within 5 weeks or so, you'll get like an overall score of how you did in each area, which we will get into what the different areas of the test looks like. But you'll know right away if you pass or you fail, which again is really intimidating. But so there are sub areas with objectives for the test, and so there's English, language, arts, and world languages, and that is the biggest portion of the test. So when I took it, it was like the first, I want to say 60 or 70 questions were solely based on the English, language, arts, and then social studies, and this goes in order. So the test is just how it's laid out here. You'll start with your English, language, arts, and then social studies, and then visual and performing arts, mathematics, science, and health education and physical education. But again, that main portion of the test is English, language, arts. Any questions? Feel free to like raise your hand and if you have any questions or comments. Oh, yes.
I was gonna ask, do you get like breaks or anything at all during it, or are you just sitting?
I think you can pause it, but your time keeps going. And you have to, so somebody is typically monitoring you, so that either be like back behind you in a glass, behind a glass window, or like to the side of you in a private office. And you have to like raise your hand to get dismissed, and then you can pause it, but your time keeps going. And they allow you to take a drink, go to the bathroom, but you can't access any of your materials. So that's another good point. When you go into your testing center, they make you put all of your items into a locker and lock it, and you can't access those until you complete the test. So you go in with your key to your locker and your driver's license, and that's all you do. All right, so how do you register? Oh, no. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this and present it from here quickly. So how do you register? You go to the MTTC website, which, again, you'll get more information on this as you go through the process before you student teach. But it will, if you click on the link, it will take you to the MTTC website. And you go to the top and you click register, which it will be right at the top of your page. And then you will have to create an account. So with an email, just like you would create any other account, and you then select the test number based on what you're taking the test for. So if it's elementary, you would select the test number 103. And then it gives you a range of dates and times that you can take it. But once you hit that register button and you create an account, it lays out. And you have to identify yourself and put in some information. But it's a pretty straightforward step-by-step it leads you through once you create an account and register. All right, so any questions that we didn't cover over the overview of that? We're gonna take some time to do some practice questions and then go through and have conversations about why or how you might answer those questions. But all right, so when I click that, does it give you options? Okay, so it says during world language instruction, which of the following student activities would best incorporate opportunities for students to negotiate meaning? And it's really important to pay attention to like key words. So would be best. It's very tricky because there could be multiple answers that would make sense, but you're trying to pick which one would be the best. So yeah, take your time. All right, so a lot of you answered either B or D, and the answer was B. So playing a game in which a word must be guessed by the use of circumlocution. So does anyone have questions about why that would have been tricky, or like comments, or what are we thinking as we're looking at those questions? What are our first initial responses to, because this is like an actual practice question that when you register for your test, you'll get one practice exam, and this comes from something which I probably shouldn't have done, but you'll get a practice exam when you register. So initial, turn and talk to a neighbor about like initial thoughts. Really quickly grew. Yeah.
It's okay. So like another thing like it was coding issue. It's basically a definition is better than the use of many words where you were working, especially in a deliberate attempt to move it or evasive. Yeah, I didn't know what circumlocution was. That was my biggest barrier in that question. But now I have.
All right, does anyone or one want to share what your initial responses were, or like what was hard about this question? Want to raise your hand and share it? If not, that's okay, we can go to the next one. There's a lot of vocabulary that is, you wonder where it comes from sometimes because you don't often see this maybe in instruction in your college courses. So you have to really just take a deep breath and sometimes use what is stated in the rest of the response and narrow it down that way. And sometimes you just have to take your best guess because words like that aren't super familiar vocabulary words. Do you have a question?
Yeah, do you know what like world language instruction is? Is that just like a Spanish class or something like that?
I want to say that it's like Spanish or French, depending on the school. World language, yeah. And there's a lot of questions on the test that are centered around like ESL, which unless you take ESL courses, I feel like you're not super familiar with that either. So if you're like able to get access to some information about general EL instruction, because it's super beneficial for all students anyway, I would say that would be my number one tip, is just to familiarize yourself with some English learner strategies and vocabulary, just because it's so important on this test, but in the classroom as well. All right, let's try another one. So you can see then you get a huge long one too. So they are really short and they can be really large as well. So at the beginning of the school year, a kindergarten teacher talks informally with students' families about the kinds of prior experiences their children have had, especially those related to learning and literacy. The teacher uses this information to help plan dramatic play and literacy centers that reflect familiar settings, tasks, and experiences. These actions most clearly demonstrate the teacher's awareness of the So again, just focusing really in on what the question is asking. And then once you've answered it, maybe turn and talk to that same partner about why you might have answered it the way you did.
You're Jessica Baptist, you know. It's like really elementary life.
And I was
How many is someone?
it's very intimidating. Just don't get into it. That's like,
Yeah.
so try study a little bit. Yeah, like
Everything is
I only have two.
There's not that many that
No.
are required.
And I think with the new programs, there's more.
Yeah, I had to take like a general, like elementary class, and then like a grammar class, and then a cultural class, like, and then that's really good.
Really?
Like, actual ESL instruction, yeah.
All right. So the answer to that one was B, which is interconnect. Oh, yeah. See, you guys got that one. So interconnections between language, literacy, and culture. So just really focusing in. What were some of the ways that you were able to read that question and understand what it was asking, and in comparison to the first one, what made that one, or was it just the clarity of the content? Yeah. You can work with other people. We'll just practice a few more. I have a couple from each subject area. So this is another English.
Is there a certain subject you would want to see a question on?
Yeah, that's true. Because we can move forward through.
Just one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can skip this
Yeah, that
one.
sounds good.
Okay, so this is social studies.
What? I'm trying to read it. I'm not comprehending. Right, at least we're still last. Right. Work with us.
Yeah, we're like,
It's something like 35. Yeah. Bless you.
so the answer to that one was D, which, yep. See, you guys are doing great. These are the types of questions that you'll actually see. So, great. Let's see the next one. This was like the third category after social studies. It was about like
Performing arts.
performing arts. Yep. Thank you.
What subject is this for?
The performing arts one.
Okay.
So it's like the third section. There's only like 5 or 6 questions for this. And it seems like really odd to be asking questions like that, but the answer was C, which, good job. Any questions, concerns? Okay. This is math. Nice. All right, and then science. Okay, so we have a pretty even tie. This one was B. Yeah, can anyone explain why they might have answered B? Answer B.
I feel like I chose B because like rolling a cube 5 times would be like the experiment, but then like the probability, like the first part seemed like the part. I don't know, the second part was the only one that seemed experimental to me.
I said, well, I was between A and B, but A would be difficult to do as an experiment because what counts as a red shirt and how would you determine whether it's a red shirt versus dice? Yep, there's actual numbers.
Anyone else? So it's really those like questions that you have to really think about and what you're answering.
Do you have time to like sit there and think about the questions like that or not really?
I would say for some of them, as long as you're going, like you have to balance your time. So if you're spending a lot on the science or math or even reading, like you have to make sure that you're moving through because you only have 3.5 hours. But I finished, I think, with like an hour left, so I had plenty of time. But I know there were other people who like ran out of time. So it like knowing yourself, knowing like how you take tests, if you need more time, like knowing that you need to like have that preconceived idea of how much time you want to spend on each question, and if you're taking longer than that, like you can mark them. That's another thing. You can mark questions on the test and then go back to them, and it will show you before like you submit. You get a page of your questions and if they answered, and if you have them marked, it will show you before you submit it. And then this was the health science. yep, the answer was C. And it is helpful to know, like, developmentally what is accurate for early elementary children, which I feel like that's something that our classes here at Hope teach us well, is that developmental key of students. So here are some resources.
Yeah, so unfortunately, all of the ones that I could find, did you have to pay for? You have to pay for the test too, right?
Yep, it's, I want to say it's $150, and Hope College does provide the option to pay for part of it. So the vouchers that you can sign up for if you receive financial aid, they determine, you like write a letter explaining why you need the vouchers to pay for your test, and then they're pretty willing to give those to you if you are in need of paying for it. And then just because you have to take two, they're pretty willing to. And if you have to retake it a second time, they give it to you definitely the second time.
Yeah. So a lot of these, you can buy different programs to study for the MTTC, or you can order like a book on Amazon. The only thing that would be free is like a YouTube video, but those could be helpful. So if you wanna, like the MTTC website, that one's free, and it has just like, if you want to look at all the different exams you might have to take, you can look at the specialties, and you can see a couple of questions for each specialty on this website. So yeah, you do get a practice test when you register, but I earlier was finding, yeah, there's like study guides, and there's a couple questions that it shows you on this website. Do you want to go back, click here to the other ones?
Yeah.
You can click on 240 or study.com, either one. This one is like the kind of thing where you like buy a subscription to this, and it would kind of give you questions based on what you needed to work on. Unfortunately, a lot of these do cost money, but this is an option if you're really stressed about it and you wanting to buy like a program to study. This has a lot of practice questions on it. Same with study.com. This one has a couple of free videos though too. But again, if you wanted to buy a program, you can do that.
And the library does have the MTTC books that you can check out, the study books, but you'll want to think about that prior to when you actually have to take it, because they're hot commodity. Like, people check them out. So
Yes, you could just buy your own on Amazon. They're not too much money. It might be smart to do that. You could write things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they have. And this one. And this one.
So if you feel like you would want to buy a program online that would help you study, then you could, or you could get a book. There's some videos on YouTube, like I said, or you could just use the practice tests when you register.
Yeah.
How did you practice for the test?
I took the practice test that they gave me when I registered, and I took all of the resources that my teachers had given me, like practice questions, I guess. I didn't really do these, but I know that the book, my good friend who had to take it a couple times used the book, and she really benefited from that. And then study.com and the YouTube videos. She said the YouTube videos were huge for her. So I mainly used the practice test just to get used to the questions and reading them and timing myself and grading myself. So I took a couple of those. And you can find other practice exams online as well. So the one you get when you register is one, but they have other ones that you can find out there. So I recommend that. Yeah.
When did you take it? Like, compared to student teaching?
I took it in November and December, and I started student teaching in January. And you just have to take it before you graduate. So you have until May, technically, because that's how they give you your teaching certification. So if you need to retake it, I recommend taking it earlier rather than later, just because if you have to retake it, then you have plenty of time. Because you have to wait, I think, 30 days before you register again if you don't pass, and then, so it's a month. So if you need to take it multiple times, it's good to just start earlier rather than later. Any other questions? So yeah, my main reminders are, you need to take care of yourself. Like, you know a lot of the content because you're taking classes at Hope, and you need to sleep, eat, and breathe. And you can always retake the exam. That's the main thing to remember is, I know it costs money, but like, there's always the option, and Hope is really willing to help you cover the costs. So taking care of yourself is really important. And then the test follows that. I feel like we just threw a lot of information at you. So if you have other questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to ask those. But that's all the information we had for you.
The next slide is the QR code, so you can all scan
Yeah.
that and take attendance. And then you guys are free to go after that.
Thanks for coming. Feel free to, if you think of questions, feel free to email tech team and we will be able to answer those questions for you or refer you to someone who would be able to.
Thank you so much. That's so good. Yeah, no, it seriously was. Don't question yourself. Yeah. It's already overwhelming. Even like and you don't have to do right. You don't want to put too much
Information, because I feel like when you overthink it, that probably starts to like,
right, exactly. So you're just giving so much information.
right. Sorry for letting you talk too more.
I wouldn't have even known what to say. I think it was better that you were talking a lot because you actually have the information that I wanted to hear. Don't even feel bad about it.
Those like examples where I can
Oh, good. Yeah, absolutely.